are live.
Oh, there you go. Hey, Michelle. How you doing? Long time no see.
I know. It's a couple days, I'm sure. Just another day.
So, how have the executive orders affected this?
They haven't affected this. We had some more stuff today. I don't know if you saw my emails from today.
Yeah, I did. It's really unfortunate that that's how he's doing it.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hampton Wilbraham Regional School District Planning Committee meeting. It is 5:31 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll do roll call. We will begin with Tim Collins,
Present.
Sean Kennedy.
I think Tim is
Oh, you're not
actually
even here. I'm sorry. You're here because, sorry. I'm sorry. I was just looking
member
at
of
you.
the public.
You're a visitor. Sorry.
Just a member of the public,
Sean
yeah.
Kennedy.
I'm here.
RTC. Don Davenport is absent this evening. Michelle Boudreau here. If you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Sean will lead us.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My apologies. Very like the beginning of the alphabet for me every year.
Don is not here tonight, that's the,
Correct.
we need him here
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
There's another meeting coming up next week.
are we gonna address it at that meeting?
Yep.
Did Nick reach out to you over that?
Nope.
We talked about that last night, about addressing this at the meeting.
Nope.
I
We're
assume
probably
you mean
all
the
in the
round
same-
table, I assume you mean the round table or not?
No, this is a
Oh.
special meeting.
We talked about,
Special meeting just for
Is
this.
there a problem with the round table?
no, we
Oh,
talked
should I
about
go
potentially
next
addressing
thing?
it at the round table.
All right, so one thing
Maura?
I've done is drafted an invitation to select board members. Since we have a select board member with us, could ask to take a look at that.
For the record.
If that reflects the will of the committee and is what you were also putting on the table, I could send that out after this meeting. Okay.
Yeah, that's the cat's meow question, I think.
That's, yeah, I like it.
I mean, that's
All
a
right.
big question.
Okay, so I will do that. The other thing that I have here is the restated agreement. We went over this with the school committee last Thursday, so I guess it's really for you. Have you had a chance to take a look at this yet?
We did, at least some of it. I don't know if we've read it in its entirety. There was a question that came last night that I haven't made before that I thought was a good question. It's on page 4, on the third paragraph of page 4. It's just past the schools, the listing of schools. It's on the next page. It reads, any leased building being utilized for education of 100% of the district students in particular grade levels, irrespective of students' town of residence, will be treated as district-owned building, capital cost, da-da-da-da. That struck us as a bit unrealistic. What if, does that include special ed? What if there's special ed kids? I mean, 100% is a big number. I'm cautious about saying 100%. Just because one person could disrupt that whole apple cart.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we would reword that. We didn't get into rephrasing it all, but it created some, is that the right way to
Yeah.
frame that?
No, that's a good point. I think the essence of this was if there is a building in the district that houses,
I understand the meaning, and we agree with the meaning.
Okay.
We just think that the wording needs to be refined so that it's, I think it means what you want it to mean.
yep, that's a good point.
Maybe we just list the schools that are district owned or that are regional. And
So MRHS and WMS,
or maybe even high school and middle school, so that if something changes with the schools, it doesn't.
Well, high school's already got a different way of being treated throughout this, so maybe we should just say middle school.
Okay, however you want to do it. Yeah, and the other thing that came up was, capital costs will be apportioned in the same manner as any other district-owned building, meaning, does that mean if it was a middle school issue, capital cost, then it would be based on the enrollment at the middle school?
I don't think so, because I believe the apportionment for capital costs at MRHS is district-wide.
I thought it was not. I thought it was based on the enrollment at the high school at that time.
Let's
No,
take a
am I
look.
wrong?
No,
Let's take a look.
Okay.
it's district-wide, pretty sure it's
Okay.
district-wide.
I don't think we have a problem either way. We just don't want to, we want to, you know, okay. I'll make a note of
Is that type of foundation enrollment?
It is.
Yeah.
And that's the way Minichog does it? So we're consistent with what we do with Minichog.
So one quick question regarding that the any lease building, that is the 100%? Is
That's,
that part of the
that's
concern
the-
in addition to the listing of the buildings or being
well,
specifying
I
the
just
building?
suggested listing
Okay.
buildings. The concern was, what is 100%? If we have a special ed student that's going to a different school, well, you don't have 100%. And therefore, is it a district-owned school? Or does it, I mean, or what if there's some odd circumstance where some student goes some other school for some reason? It just seemed, whenever you say something so absolute as that, it makes me concerned.
Okay.
Did anything else come up?
That was the one issue that did. I don't know if anybody really had a chance to read it prior to that point.
Okay. So the purpose of the meeting, as I view it, is really to talk about that paragraph that you highlighted with whatever new language it might come up.
Okay.
This is
Is that a new paragraph?
It is.
I hadn't noticed it before.
It's a new
Okay,
paragraph.
okay.
Anything in yellow is new.
Oh, okay, okay. Are there things in here that we need to be concerned about? Or that are particularly,
Well, it's the language that we've been talking about all along. A lot of things have been, as you know, to address comments that have been brought forward by the state.
is DESI, or have we gotten any feedback from DESI or maybe even Mars would be a better choice around making a school a district school versus a town-owned school, and how it's been treated, how it's made that transition in the past?
We have not gotten any feedback from DESI on that. This language kind of is sort of an in-between sort of language, because the building is not owned in this version by the district, but capital costs are treated as if it was owned by the district. We did reach out to school committee legal counsel for some options with how it could be handled, and did receive some potential recommendations, but those have not gone to DESI yet or Mars yet. We did have a conversation with Mars about this, just so you know, and with their perspective was it'd be better to work with the local folks and with DESI, because they're the ones that have to decide in the end.
Okay. I mean, I think the concern of the town is real over this. That if this, and then the concern is, okay, well, if this becomes a sticking point and the agreement doesn't pass, then we've made no headway, and Wilbraham is still holding entirely the entire capital costs. Which is, at some point, problematic.
Do you know if any other options have been floated as potential solutions?
I will say I had a brief discussion with John Flynn over this,
Yeah.
I went to Gina Khan's wake, and I saw John there, and we were just chatting about a couple things, and this came up. And he echoed some of the same concerns that Don had, which raised my level of concern, because I'm like, well, this is, I mean, I don't know how you, no. Everything's pre-existing.
Yeah.
The building's, what, 60 years old? I don't know, 50 years old, it's old, and it's been around for a while, and I'll speak from the select board side of it, at least from our side of it. You know, I get how that is an issue for Hamden, but they're not paying anything to get into the building yet. We're not charging any user fee. I mean, those costs to put the new roof on, those costs to do whatever has been done over the last 5 or 10 years to this building, the beneficiary of that will be the Hamden students. At Wilbraham's 100% of the cost. And there's been how long have we been using this building effectively now as a regional middle school, and we've not said anything. So I think we've been fair in it, and I just think we're looking to us, the easy answer would be, let's just share the costs as we move forward. Because the beneficiaries will be the future kids, not the previous kids.
I think that's going to be the essence of the negotiation.
Yes. And we don't have a lot of time. Okay.
So that meeting is set for 6:30 next Wednesday.
Yeah.
I would hope, I'm not sure who can attend that. I assume it's, who would want to attend that? Just this group?
Select board.
Select board.
Both Select board.
Select boards, okay. I can't speak for the other two members, what their schedules are, but I will send them an email tonight.
We're meeting the day before for the roundtable.
So that came up last night's meeting. Can this discussion be added to the roundtable agenda?
I mean, anything can be done, but I think that the way that we're really focusing on the roundtable is to talk about the school, the budget, the finances, and to have it be that. And then do you need Popolo, Ash, and Olivera there for it? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So we could do it if it needed to be, but I don't think it'd be the right venue to do it.
I think you could do it at the end and basically say, we're just going to discuss this one issue now, guys. If anyone wants to leave, but we need certain people here for this. But maybe that's the fallback if not everybody can make it on Wednesday. I'm not hijacking the meeting. I'm just trying to make this work.
Because the end of the meeting is, that's where everyone has conversations, hopefully, and are talking
Okay.
and
All right.
whatever,
Well-
so, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
but whatever everyone decides, you know.
We'll see what the feedback is, and hopefully people can attend, even if they can attend via Zoom. But I think it is important to have both select boards, to have the conversation and to really look at this and flesh it out.
Yeah. And we don't have to print the agenda until Friday. I mean,
Well, you can always edit the agenda too.
So is your entire board attending on Tuesday? Do you know?
As far as I know. No one said they're not.
Okay.
So 3 nights in a row might be difficult for some, though. I'm not sure what their schedule is.
Or just any other week for school committee.
Has this been shared with the Hamden Select Board?
It's been shared with the town administrator and with the legal counsel for Hampton, without any restrictions on it being shared otherwise. So I would assume that it has, but I don't know for 100%. I did not directly share it.
I think it'd be a good idea to make sure it's been shared. There's a lot to digest in a short period of time.
But much of it hasn't changed. Much of it, I don't think there's a lot of issues in there that are,
And Don is on the select board, so he has seen it. It is a public document, so it has been.
And
It's not new.
I'll just point out in the draft message that I was approved to send out, it says that I'm attaching this. So everyone, if they haven't seen it already, will have seen it when they get my email. Probably less than an hour.
Any other additional questions or concerns?
No, I'll go through this more, in more detail before the next meeting, but
You can see in my draft, I'm kind of directing folks to that paragraph. It's the only thing I've heard from either town, is the one that,
I think we went through the rest of it so I don't think there was anything of any concern other than how are we going to handle the regional school. That was, from our perspective, that was the issue.
Do you think that doing a sale of the school would be the solution to this problem?
So, I brought that, I'm not sure how much I'm supposed to say.
Was it open session or public
No,
session?
it was some of it was done in executive sessions. It has
Speak
been-
broadly.
It has been discussed. If it was, speaking for myself, I don't see where the benefit, what the benefit would be to him to do that. All of a sudden now.
To do what? To buy it?
To buy it, because now they're gonna pay for it. They're gonna get a school effectively, and then they're gonna be responsible for maintenance. The lease option, they're getting a school for free, with just the expectation of maintenance. So you're thinking about it from a perspective of option A or option B. I mean, I know what I would choose.
Then do you think that Wilbraham would sell it for like an appraised value? Or do you think that something like,
I think legally, I'm not sure exactly the legal ramifications, but typically you're supposed to sell things for appraised values. Now, I'm not sure if that's the case because of its intergovernmental.
well, how do we do this for Minnetonka? How was Minnetonka done? Because Minnetonka,
It was built.
yes, I know,
We didn't buy it. We
but
didn't buy
the
it.
old Minnetonka was,
I have no idea how that was done 50 years ago, whatever that was. I don't know. I don't know if that was always, I don't know where that, no idea.
okay.
But I think as a government building, you don't necessarily have to get the appraised value for it, but I don't think we're going, well,
It's not gonna be for $1.
The town's not looking to give it away for free.
I don't think so. That was the initial discussion we had, that because in the event there was a move away from that school, we'd like to be able to do something with it. And we would have no ability to do anything with it. And we certainly wouldn't sell all the property around it. I would be against that myself. But I'm speaking out of turn. I don't really know how they, I'm hoping we're gonna get to a regional agreement that's agreeable to everybody. And so, I don't wanna say anything's off the table. Well, there are certain things that will be off the table, but open to discussion. So one of my hopes tonight was to talk to Don and say, if you guys aren't agreeing to this, what do you agree to?
Don's not available to call in or anything?
is health issue.
Okay.
So, but that's my hope, was to ask the question, well, if this isn't gonna work for you, then what will work for you? And then we can begin to try to find common ground.
Is there language that we could put into the agreement that allows us to take this out of the agreement to solve and not be a part of the agreement? Does this solution have to be part of the agreement? Is there some kind of language that we could put in there to get this passed that won't upset the apple cart, and then the two towns and the school committee can sit down and negotiate a solution and then have that apply? Do you know what I'm saying? Is that,
So the issue I'd have with that is I think the cat's out of the bag now, where we've been bearing the full burden of the capital maintenance over the last number, how long have we been using it? 5 years, 6 years? We've
Yeah.
asked, and now it's time. It's time to figure this out.
yeah?
So,
Okay.
I just think we need to figure this out, and, I don't know if that helps, right? Because we're basically saying we're gonna kick the can down the road. And one of our concerns.
I'm not saying kick the can down the road, I'm
No,
saying so
I-
we can get this passed with the changes, and then that's the hard, tough question that we can sit and work on as just its own question.
I think this was one of the sections that Jesse, or the Office of,
Regional
yes,
management.
Yeah.
was required us to work through.
But they need this in the agreement, is what you're saying.
Well, it is one of the sections that, in my opinion, I believe that it has to be in the agreement. They haven't given us feedback on this paragraph yet, because this is the newest paragraph in the agreement.
Yep.
But, I mean, one of the things was, that you had suggested at the last meeting is, could it just say that they'll do whatever's in the lease? But then that just kind of kicks it into the lease. And then you could potentially have a problem where people were drafting leases that were inconsistent with what the agreement requires, and that would be.
And Hamden wouldn't be party to that lease.
Right, exactly.
Well, they could be because they have students who are attending that school, right?
But the lease is between the landlord and the person leasing the building. I don't think that's an appropriate lease. Like, so I'm gonna ask a question. What's the status of TWB these days? Has it been returned to the town of Hamden yet?
Technically,
July
that lease
1st.
runs out on July 1st. But for all practical purposes, right there.
Or where were you going with that?
I'm just wondering what we do if this doesn't get done.
It's gonna get done. It's gotta get done.
I hope it does.
Yeah, I think the town of Camden just wants, their concerns to be heard and kind of work through those. And it's surrounding, the cost of repairs and the repair, I would imagine, I'm not speaking on behalf of the town, but my assumption is that, talking about, items like deferred maintenance that should have been taken care of that was not, that now the town of Hamden has to carry that burden, that it's outside of, 100% of Hamden students occupying Wilbraham Middle School. So items like that, so I think it's just working through those sorts of things and possibly coming up with language that would be fair and reasonable.
I don't know if this will be viewed as fair or reasonable or acceptable, but one thought I've had is, to your point of everything could be considered pre-existing, there is documentation on items that were known through the capital planning process, so maybe those could be treated differently.
So like, for example, the doors and windows, like, those are, it's a large cost, and that's something that we're, I know, exploring using the MSBA accelerated program for, but that's not something that occurred within the last 5 years, or 7 years even. So thinking about those sorts of things, are there other things that certainly,
How would you treat the mold? It's been remediated. It's no longer there.
Well, the mold.
I say that sarcastically. I mean,
I know. Right, I don't have
as
a
far as I'm
concern.
concerned, it's no longer a pre-existing condition.
Right.
But, and I bring that one up specifically because
Yeah.
it's
That's a tricky one.
one of the other concerns I think the town has is presumably if we move forward with the way it's stipulated in here or some facsimile of that, then any capital repair would need to pass both town meetings. What's the protection for Wilbraham that their building is going to be maintained? Sorry, John. I mean, but that came up. I mean, and that is a fair concern. I think good people will do the right thing largely. But
But we have to do.
but the
Yeah.
reality is, what's Hamden's vested interest to say, yes, we'll fix that? Other than their students are in there, which is a
Right.
real issue. I mean, that's a real benefit, but I mean, I'm not saying, but I don't know if that passes the muster in all the cases. And so, the way this is constructed currently, and it doesn't specifically say that, but presumably both towns would need to vote on this at town meeting,
Mhm.
any capital repairs. So Hamden would have a say in what gets approved and what doesn't. And that's part of where I get Mike, I come off the rails a little bit.
Okay, we're kind of brainstorming, and part of, like, my training and brainstorming is just to, if you have an idea, you throw it out there. It might not be the greatest idea, but it might spur something with somebody else, right? Follow me on this. Wilbraham sells the TWV to the school district, okay?
WMS.
I'm sorry, WMS to the school district, right? The difference or the percentage of the money that Hampden would pay would be, let's say, like some kind of promissory note given to the town of Wilbraham from Hampden of the, let's just say it's $5 million, okay? It's just a promissory note, it's no money's exchanged, whatever. We use it as we use it, how long we use it, and if there's ever a time that we say, okay, listen, we're not going to use this school anymore, then basically you would forgive that promissory, or you would give that promissory note back, and then you could take possession of that property again. Therefore,
I assure you, you're not gonna use that building forever, so that will,
right,
that
that's
day
what I'm
will
saying.
come.
Right, so it'll come back to you, but then this way, Hampden's not taking like $5 million out of their budget, but it's the promissory note, and it's a lien against the building, or however you want to look at it like that. No money actually exchanges hands, but it's now owned by the district, and you have that note, so that when it eventually reverts back to the town, that note is forgiven. It's not like you're buying it back.
How's that different than the lease?
Because it's actually owned by the district, and that means we own everything, all the warts and scars and all are owned, and it becomes property that we have to maintain. Because I think if it ever reverts back to the town, the first thing you're gonna do is destroy the building and put something new up there.
There's a lot of legal questions in there that I'm not able to get my arms wrapped around.
Again, I would rather bring it up and have it maybe spark another idea, or maybe it's something that we can do, but that's the only thing I was thinking is a way of there being an exchange of money when it's not an exchange of money, so it doesn't necessarily hurt Hampden, but then now all those questions about properly maintaining the building, it's now the district responsibility, and all the costs and stuff like that is shared by both towns.
I mean, I guess you could
equally.
say the same, I guess you could do it a different way, as you think through that. You could say, we'll sell it to the school district for $1,
And we can sell it back to you for.
under the condition that it gets sold back to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be a cleaner way to understand.
Okay, again,
Yeah.
brainstorming,
Yeah.
this is what we're trying to do.
But I don't.
I have no
and
problem with
do I think we'd have a problem with that? I don't know. That to me is no different than leasing it. Effectively, right? 'Cause it's-
But it answers all the other questions and puts all that
But
responsibility
how
on the
does
district.
how does that benefit Hampden to, when you go to the maintenance issue?
Because it's district owned and all the maintenance and
Difference doesn't
stuff.
make if it's district owned to the taxpayer.
It's our property until we
No,
don't want it.
I'm just
I know,
asking the question, what difference does that make?
I didn't think that this was going to be a good idea from the beginning, and I said it at the meeting, because I don't see why would I put on a new roof or new doors and stuff like that on a building that I don't own if I was Hampden? I'm saying Hampden could very well do it, and that's very generous of them, because it's for their students and for all the students, because remember, all Hampden and Wilbraham students are now all our students. But I was just thinking that maybe this is something that some kind of ownership takes away a lot of those questions. That's all.
I don't think ownership removes any of those questions. I think
You buy a house, you buy it as is.
they're not buying a house.
I know, but I'm just saying, that's
I mean,
my
they're paying
example.
zero to get into the house.
Right?
We're letting them use the house.
Yes, yeah, I know.
Just share with the maintenance
Right.
costs.
It
Yeah.
sounds like your concern is mainly about what happens when you get to the day where the school is no longer the school.
I don't want to say that's one of the main concerns. I mean, there's two main concerns, right? I mean, we want to share, we think it's only fair to share in the costs as we move forward if Hampden students are going to take advantage of the building.
Yeah.
And yes, at some level, there is concern, like what happens to this building when it's no longer needed as a school? That day will come, whether it's in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, I don't know. And how do the taxpayers respond to the fact that we're just gonna give this building away?
So I mean, one of the things I wrote down here is I wonder if we need another paragraph about, you know, the end of the school's usable life or whatever. I mean, I do think there are some protections in the short term because there is an MSBA roof on there, which means it has to stay in service as a school for a number of years until, I forget what the actual rule is, but it's a while. You don't get that reimbursement and then say, I'm closing it
Right.
and starting over again.
I don't envision that school being closed anytime soon. And I don't, even if you did do it in sooner than I would understand, sooner than I would imagine, there's no reason you couldn't repurpose it into another school.
I think something that we learned too from the old Minnetonka is that, you know, we did not maintain it as a district. We did not maintain it, and it fell apart. And we're having conversations about making sure that we don't repeat that same mistake again with this building. So again, I think it's having that conversation. It's not about one town not, you know, approving capital costs and saying, you know, what's in it for us. I think it's about making sure that the district has a plan and can, you know, sustainably support, you know, our buildings and the repairs that come along with it and the maintenance.
I'm just curious to hear what Hammond's options would be.
Right, and potential, you know, suggestions, solutions, and things. So I think it's a worthwhile conversation, and I think it really is important to have everybody at the table
Yeah.
and putting their concerns forth, sharing their ideas, and thinking about how we can work this. Because the fact is, we want to go to town meeting. We want this to be successful. We've put a lot of work into it. We've really been thoughtful with all of every section and decision that we've made in the best interests of our students, you know, making sure that, you know, we've covered all the areas and considerations. So we want this to be successful, so it's really important to make sure that, you know, we don't fall on this without putting our best foot forward.
So a couple thoughts. So when I touched on this earlier, I agree. I think the best answer is to get this resolved and move forward. Can of worms has been opened, right? I mean, the toothpaste out of the tube. How does the town feel if it doesn't get approved? How does the town feel about 20% of the enrollment being handed and bearing none of the cost? So that will surface, I think, if this fails. We don't want that discussion either.
Right.
We don't look forward to it, let's say that for sure. I don't know. I just,
And that, the conversation, it's really about transparency and just, I mean, no one's trying to hide anything, no one's
No.
trying to, you know, pull a fast one. It's about, you know, what,
I
like
have
you're
a-
saying, like, everything's on the table.
I haven't looked at the capital plan in some time. Do we know what major capital items are on there that have been deferred for people? I know that doors and windows have been on there for a while. I don't know what else would be on there that would be considered deferred or
Asbestos
excessively
remediation.
deferred.
Yeah, asbestos remediation is always going on.
Well, that's a forever thing. I mean, that's a forever thing.
Yeah, we do have the capital plans, and basically, one way of looking at it is you go back to the last meeting we had on that side of the library. Everything that was in the front year was deferred from prior years.
And then the question becomes, well, on those things that we did fix and are paying for, or did pay for, are we gonna get?
Yeah.
I mean, should that be free?
Right.
No. I mean, so I think that,
So
I
like the
think,
curtain, I know the auditorium, I think the curtain was, just as an example.
but I mean, we put a new roof on this,
Mhm.
and so and I'm being a devil's advocate here, and I know that, but we put a new roof on this building, and if this goes through, the Hamden students will basically be the beneficiary of that new roof without paying a nickel.
Right. But also, if you look at it like this, you know, the building needed the roof anyway, right? So if the roof,
I'm not advocating to do it, I'm not advocating for it.
right, but it just as an
I'm just
example,
playing
right?
the devil's, I'm just doing the opposite end of the spectrum
Right.
here.
But sometimes, like for instance, if you have a classroom, sometimes it doesn't cost anything more to add a
Yes.
few more students. You already have the teachers. You
Well,
don't.
it costs more to put the roof on.
This will be an interesting conversation next week.
There's Wilbraham students inside Wilbraham Middle School as well, you know.
But I agree, I think,
Enjoying
and I
that
think
roof.
there's no disagreement
No,
on,
no, no, I
on
get it, I
having shared
understand, yeah.
costs. I think there's not a disagreement on shared costs for sure.
Yeah, no.
You know, it is, you know, we do have to look at how we are treating that building and how we're paying for it.
I know the parking lot, I think either John or Don raised the issue on the parking lot. That would be another thing that came up.
Right. I remember
Well,
those, yeah.
they could drop their kids off at Stony, on the Stony Hill Road and walk in.
There's the plug.
Making light of it, and I shouldn't.
I just, it seems to me that.
Excuse me,
more-
you're not part of this meeting, I'm so sorry, you're an
Just
observer.
ask.
Oh, I just said,
Speak.
no one was saying anything, so I just recognized.
I'm just saying, I just don't want to be called out of order because we are a quorum of another committee. That's just saying, just be really careful.
I don't know what I'm going to say, which would be dangerous, but it just seems to me that we've been very accommodating to Hamden as far as TWB goes. And I think it's only reasonable, since 100% of their kids are in our middle school, that they take on 20%. The same thing we do with the high school. 20% of the population in the school, you've got 20% responsibility to make sure the school is maintained.
That would be the town's position, town of Wilbraham's position.
And the town of Hamden's position would be, are new windows part of that responsibility? And what if we only use the school for 5 years, for 10 years? And then it reverts back and they have all these windows. I mean, you can look at it depending what side of the table you're on. And I'm from Wilbraham, so I'm just trying to say, like, I want this to pass. And I'm just looking from what I believe could be Hamden's eyes and being like, it's a kind of a bitter pill to swallow. So that's the only thing.
And let's be clear.
Yeah.
It isn't just us agreeing. It's the town
The
residents
town's
agreeing.
residents, of course, that's what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
yeah.
We can agree all we want, but if the residents don't agree, it
Yeah.
doesn't go anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So
But the
understanding
hope
the
is that-
realities. Okay.
I'm sorry, but the hope is that you have your finger on the pulse of the town. We'll know what things would be unacceptable and what things are potentially, doable.
You would hope, but or anything around middle school, I shed all responsibility. Through 10 years of living this.
Anything else? Quickly, the town warrants. So the warrant dates, have yours changed? I know Hamden has to have,
Nothing materially, I didn't ask, but nothing material, nothing was brought up to me. I did ask Nick about the notion, the real agreement doesn't need to be, and he thought not.
And just so you know, the legal counsel for the school committee is working with legal counsel for both towns on warrant articles in anticipation of this. So hopefully, that legal team can make sure that everything gets written the way it needs to by the time it needs to.
And I believe they're gonna start working on talking about the building itself, right? My understanding?
That is not my understanding. My understanding, in the communications I've seen, the sort of direction was, the towns are coming together to talk about this. This is something that might need to be modified, but can we work on the rest, basically?
so I know warrant placeholders are due for Hampton by March 1st.
We're gonna go over later, a couple weeks later.
All right, anything else? Okay, so the hope is, I know, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, nothing prevents you from reaching out and having a conversation with Dawn.
No.
Is that right? Yeah,
Or John or anybody.
okay. Right, yeah.
I've talked to Don here, but I had a conversation with John. I've not talked to Craig. I have talked to, at least, had some level of conversation. I think the best thing is to get everybody in at once.
Yeah.
I am not real comfortable going too far with this without, there's so many questions around this that,
Yeah.
They have to be answered.
yeah.
think we'll get a lot further rather
Yep.
than speculating what somebody else is thinking or what people's
Right.
concerns are. So I
Yep.
think this is the best.
And this is just gonna be the select boards and the school committee? The entire school committee will be there?
Yep.
Yes. So with that, so we have budget roundtable on Tuesday meeting, and then I know John sent this communication out for next Wednesday, so hopefully we'll have 100% participation from both boards and school committee. And if not, we will go to Plan B, which could possibly potentially be adding additional time to the roundtable. So. anything else?
When do you need all this done? Like
We
right
still
away?
have to submit everything for final Tessie legal review. They said that final process will take about 2 weeks. We sort of work backwards. You know, ideally, I would really want this, well, ideally, I'd want it to be done next Wednesday, that we'd come up with some language that everyone could agree to. But if that didn't happen, I would definitely want to see it done by, yeah,
Valentine's Day.
yeah. We're
So
getting to the end.
Middle of February,
Yeah,
middle
we're
of
getting to the
February, we'll
end.
get to the middle, get you to the end of February.
Right.
Correct.
Hopefully.
Correct.
Yeah, but then we would need time to review the review. I mean,
You might have
No.
to make some other
Right.
changes,
Yeah.
and send it back, but if everything else in this agreement seems acceptable other than this, the only other thing I can highlight is that Desi has asked for a conference call on withdrawal because withdrawal needs to be handled in a special way because it's a two-town district, so if one town withdraws, you no longer have a district. So that section will need some changes, but I don't see changes to any other section.
Are you planning on doing informational sessions for the public prior to town meeting?
I'm open to any direction that the boards or the school committee wants to give me.
we will have to.
I think so, because you don't want to have all this being dropped
Yeah, yeah.
on this, the residents.
No,
at town
we need to
meeting.
get a clean agreement out to
Yeah.
everybody. We need to have parents come in, have parents look at it.
Not
and-
just
and-
parents.
And a planning committee.
Not
No,
just-
no, I know.
Yeah.
And members of the town and have everyone who wants to come talk about what they think of the agreement and issues like that. So we can, if we need to change language, we can change language or whatever. We just, if we go to them and say, this is it, this is what you're gonna vote on, they need to have time to be
We
able
need
to.
to digest this first.
Yeah, yeah. And have options like, oh, I hate this line, we should change it to this, and have the ability to change stuff, right?
Or even just further clarification,
Or
just
further
understanding
clarification.
what does this actually mean?
Yep.
I think
How
that's
does
the,
this
that's the
impact?
key
That's the
point,
most
right?
important
What does
thing.
this mean? What
Right.
changes are we making?
It's a
What does
lot,
it mean?
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And what is required, because.
Yes.
Well, a lot of it's required, yeah.
Most of, I would say probably 80% of this yellow is just coming up to regulations, current regulations. The pieces that we all are trying to do is a few sentences in this paragraph, really.
Yeah.
Effectively.
Right.
Yeah, and I would suggest having multiple meetings with multiple formats, times,
Mhm.
to, I mean, you can't get enough support. You need to
Yeah.
go to town meeting with the support,
Yep.
because we
Yes.
don't.
You don't want people learning about it for the first time.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, so we'll do, roll call. Sean?
Aye.
Mark?
All right.
Myself, aye, we're adjourned. It's
So,
6:14.
one of the things I'm thinking, listening to them already,